Welcome everyone to today's episode of Getting In, a College Coach Conversation. I'm Sally Ganga from College Coach. I hope you're doing as well as can be expected during this really stressful time. I know some of you are listening to this later, but we're recording this in April, and things are a little stressful right now. There's also a lot of changes on the admission landscape. As you likely already know, the June SAT date was canceled, but they are still planning on holding the August SAT. As of April 16th, the ACT was still planning to hold their June and July test dates. They said with the caveat, if allowed within the CDC and the guidelines of local governments. So you may be considering whether or not to register for these tests given the uncertainty, but I'm actually recommend that people do so because it looks like if you register for a test, then if it gets canceled, you're going to get priority for any subsequent test dates. So just might make things easier for you down the road. And, if nothing else, they'll give you, a refund. So there is also some good news if you aren't sure when you'll be able to take the SAT or ACT and are not a great tester anyway. More and more colleges are going test optional for the incoming class of fall 2021. So a recent example is Cornell. So we imagine there's going to be more as time goes on. Okay, so we'll focus on our show today. For our second segment, I'll be talking with my colleague Lauren DiProspero, formerly of Stanford, Columbia, and the University of San Francisco, about the top 5 things to keep in mind when putting together a college list. This is high fidelity college counseling style. For our last segment, our office hours, my colleague Lauren Randall, formerly of Georgetown, and I will be discussing how the process of deferring from college for a year works. But first, I'll be talking with Michelle Richardson, finance consultant for College Coach, about the top 5, again, top 5 is really big, top 5 college cost saving strategies. So welcome, Michelle. I know a lot of families are particularly stressed about money right now, so I am very glad that you can help. In fact, it's really one of the largest concerns for many parents and college-bound students, how to reduce costs. So, the concern has grown considerably in the last month. So today in our quarterly top 5 series, we're going to discuss these top 5 ways of reducing the cost of college. So let's start at the top of the list. What's number 1, Michelle?
When we talk to families, the best way to try and reduce the cost of college is really through the college selection process. And so one of the best ways is to use a college list. And I didn't put that as number 1 because you're talking about that later with our lovely colleague Lauren on the top 5 things. But really, in order for families to maximize merit scholarship opportunities or need-based grants, if they qualify for need-based financial aid, those 2 items are offered by the colleges themselves. So really using financial fit and choosing a no problem school can really help reduce that cost. It also allows for an opportunity for negotiation or asking for a merit award reconsideration. Quite honestly, where we're at today, we're seeing a lot of colleges uncertain with their numbers for the fall. We've seen a lot of success with families going back to the colleges and asking for a higher merit award in order to kind of lock in for the fall class. So that is something that I think is really imperative today. So using a college list can be really helpful and really is the number 1 way to try and reduce the cost of college.
Okay, great. All right. So what, and by the way, I think everybody should start with a list, even if you're not worried about money, like having that well-balanced list is really important. So we just want to back up what Michelle is saying, start with that list. That list is going to be important. All right. So Michelle, what's number 2?
The second One is to apply for financial aid, even if the family doesn't think that they may qualify. There are several factors involved and included in calculating a student's financial aid eligibility, including the cost of that college, including the number of children in that family attending college at the same time. So I speak to a lot of families, and we all do, where they say, I know we're not going to qualify for financial aid. Well, let's dig into that a little bit deeper, because oftentimes that may not be the case. And what we're seeing today is families who perhaps didn't think they may qualify for financial aid, if they are running into different financial circumstances, if they apply early on, the school and the family are already a step ahead if they need to uh, ask for reconsideration and have things evaluated. So I would really encourage families to apply for financial aid. Um, with people today being furloughed and being laid off, and we're hearing of a lot of entities reducing salaries, families having increased medical expenses, those are all items that a family can go back to the college and talk to the financial aid office and ask for an appeal. And so this is not only really relevant today, because this again is something that we are talking with families on a daily basis about, unfortunately, but really families should look at applying for financial aid and not assuming that they may not qualify.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's important to note. And I will say I've had families who never indicated an interest before, now kind of raising their hands saying, should we apply? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you think maybe, then the answer is definitely yes. So,
Right,
all
right.
right. What about number three? What about the cost of the college?
People really want to prepare. For anything big in life, we're always told to prepare. And this begins with starting to save for college and to try and start early. One thing we always talk to families about is it's okay to start small. I know when I was in my 30s and had two children and was preparing to pay for college, I had to start small. And then as my salary increased, then I was able to look at increasing what I was putting away for their college. And part of that preparation to prepare for the cost may include looking at tax advantaged education savings plans where families might qualify for federal and state tax incentives. One thing that I realized myself is once the children get older, you find that your household budget may shift. So families with young children, it can be hard for them to start to even think about saving for college because maybe they're, you know, basically paying a lot for childcare expenses, especially if, maybe they're dual income families. But maybe once the student gets into elementary school and maybe they're only paying for after child care, they can reallocate those dollars and put it towards saving for college. Um, and I think when we speak to any parents of high school children, they are not inexpensive in any way. With all of the activities and tutoring, and my son played football, so I was feeding a football team every week, and but sitting down and looking at reallocating what I wasn't paying for both of my kids when they weren't home to help them reallocate that and put that towards preparing and saving for college. So I always say, think of college, saving for college as a marathon and not a race. And crowdsource and ask your friends and families to help.
I'm going to be helping with my nephew.
Good for you.
So
That's
I'm part of the
awesome.
crowd for him. Yeah.
Excellent.
All right. And well, I don't have my own kids, so I'm really happy to help. So what's next? What's number 4, Michelle?
Um, this one, most families probably assume, but to apply for scholarships, both at the college level and with outside entities. Most often we see with colleges in awarding their merit scholarships that their college application process might be the only items used to be considered for merit scholarships, but there are some colleges that require families apply for financial aid, or there might be separate scholarship applications or auditions that need to be held, or priority deadlines in order to be considered for those college scholarships. So from a merit scholarship perspective, they'll want to check with each institution. And then in looking at outside scholarships, think about where the family has networks and affiliations. Where the family does business. Oftentimes, parents might belong to professional associations or community service groups, and they might offer scholarships. And the high school guidance office is a great resource for local scholarships for graduating seniors. And there are a lot of national scholarship databases that we are asked about a lot. Not all of them are reputable, so people should be aware of that. Never pay for free money, so don't
Hmm.
pay anybody that promises that they're going to find scholarships or pay for part of your student's education. But applying for scholarships is another way to try and reduce that overall cost.
Hmm. All right. And I think that people are somewhat aware of all of those. Is there anything just really surprising out of the box that might that maybe no one's thought of? Well, obviously not no one, but that you can advise them as a long-term expert in this field.
Well, with outside and private scholarships, especially at the national level, those are very competitive. But people really need to look at um, scholarships. There are scholarships out there for everybody and everything. So, there's a scholarship for eating ice cream or being part of a American flag commercial, and so think about that from a scholarship perspective.
Okay. All right. And what about number 5? Let's move
Yep. Finally,
on to the ultimate.
yes. So think outside the box. So when families are trying to reduce the cost of college, they might want to consider taking advantage of low interest rate federal loans. Though the federal direct loan program is one of those entitlement loan programs that basically, if students don't use it, they lose it for each academic year they're in college. And it's projected that this upcoming academic year, the federal direct loan is going to be at an historic low rate. So think about that. Students might want to, and parents consider having their student have an on-campus job, a summer job to help pay for college. Consider being a resident assistant or an RA on campus. They get free room and board, and sometimes that's one of the most expensive components when it comes to paying for college. And also look at less expensive room and board options. Um, Again, on a personal note, I know when my 2 kids went to college, I paid for more meals than I know that they ate. So you don't have to get the biggest meal plan. And I made sure I was probably the mean mom. I made them live in the dormitory, the 2-bedroom, 2 bed, 2 desk, 1 room, no air conditioning. It was a good way for them to kind of, um, let's see, like when they got home and appreciate perhaps what they had when they were at home, but it was definitely a less expensive option.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. That's been so helpful. So thank you, Michelle.
Hey, you're very welcome,
Okay.
Sally.
All right. Now we'll be taking a short break, but when we return, talking to Lauren D. Sparrow about putting together your college list.